So a few days ago, I attended a city council meeting here in Tucson. It was a pretty interesting experience, and I recommend that to anyone who wants to get an idea of how their local government functions. It was interesting to see how my fellow citizens here in Tucson, what's important enough for them to make them get up and go and attend one of these meetings and make certain their voices are heard. The city of Tucson has a population of over 500,000 people, not including the greater metro area, which increases it significantly. Whereas the room that the city council meeting took place in could probably seat maybe 100 people, maybe a little more. There's a stereotype that the people who attend city council meetings are usually pretty old. And in this case, at least in the one that I visited, that held mostly true. Of the maybe 40 people in attendance, 5 were under the age of 40. The meeting began with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, which seemed a little strange to me. The Pledge of Allegiance is fine, that makes sense. Or in America, it's just I haven't really said the Pledge of Allegiance since high school. I mean, I've studied it, I know all the words, I've criticized it, but I haven't really recited it for a long time. But, you know, it came right back to me. The prayer was probably the more surprising part of it, because, I mean, I don't have a problem with prayer, the concept or anything, but I do believe in a separation of church and state. That's pretty important to me. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised given that Arizona is a pretty religious state. However, I'm so used to thinking of government in secular terms that to attend a government function and experience a religious aspect to it caught me a little off guard. Of course, the contents of the prayer itself were not really objectionable. The regular proceedings where the council members brought up items on the agenda and asked questions and eventually voted on it went pretty smoothly. The council members voted unanimously on every motion, which suggests to me that they all just talked about it beforehand and already knew the outcome, so really this whole meeting was more of a formality. By far the most interesting part was where the public got up to voice their opinions on one matter or another. There was an entire group of people there to lodge complaints against a security company that the city of Tucson has contracted called G4S. There were signs, there were speeches ready. It was pretty interesting. I believe that many of the older people in attendance would pretty proudly label themselves as peace-loving hippies. I'm not terribly familiar with G4S as a company, but after doing a little bit of research, I did see that they do have a bit of a reputation for excessive force, human rights violations, and so on. I don't know how much of that is substantiated, but I do see how a multinational security force could gain that reputation, whether rightfully or wrongfully. There's also strong sentiment against Raytheon Missile Systems, which is the largest employer in Tucson. As a weapons manufacturer, the prominence and incentives that the city of Tucson gives the company to make certain it stays here in the city doesn't really sit well with the peace-loving hippie population of Tucson. In an impassioned speech, one man noted that in placing so much investment into Raytheon, the city of Tucson is basically banking on the country remaining embroiled in military conflicts for the foreseeable future, as it has been for the past 15 years. In short, it's not in Tucson's best interests for war to end, since so much of its economy is tied into weaponry. It's interesting to see this place where the values of the people meet with the practicality of governance. As it is, it's unlikely that one man's impassioned speech will stand in the face of Raytheon's 12,000 jobs. But while the speech may not have an immediate effect, it could be the first step in a series of changes that will eventually lead Tucson in a different direction, given enough diligence and determination. A country doesn't turn on a dime. Thanks for watching. See you next week.